All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The conversation begins right now. We're calling it Youth and Politics, the Jubilee Scorecard. We're giving them the final word because this is the last show for the year until 2022. January 10th, we will be taking a break here on Daybreak. Let me introduce my guests real quick, beginning with the order in which they arrived. Edward Githaiga, Youth Leader and Chairman. Vijana Narao is here. Thank you so much for making time.
It's a pleasure to be here, Trevor.
Asante sana. Billion Ojiwa, aspiring Member of Parliament for Mathare, is also here and a community activist.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in. Griffin Zomwenga, West Mugirango, Member of Parliament aspirant, is also here with us.
Thank you very much, Trizo.
Asante sana for coming through. And Suleiman Bashir, a lawyer, is joining us from Mombasa. Thank you for making time. We're still waiting for Ezena Lemalatian, aspiring women rep for Samburu. She's also a global peace ambassador. As soon as she comes in, we will just drop her into the conversation. We'll talk about the Jubilee Scorecard on 4 different aspects: devolution, healthcare, education, and economy. But first, let's take a look at the dailies, see what they're saying, and hear the views of the young politicians who are with me here in studio. And Standard and Daily Nation, almost related, but the same story, just different headlines. Raila rides storm to craft a new coalition. ODM Leaders Coalition building skills are legendary, having started way back in 1997, and now faced with an aggressive competitor, Raila will have to go an extra mile to breathe life into Azimio la Umoja after former NASA allies keep off. Now, the Daily Nation, on the other hand, says that Grand Alliance leaders allied to Deputy President vow to shoot down proposed amendments intended to create a legal structure for the formation of a political coalition. 2 special sittings of the National Assembly are planned for next week, when the changes contained in a bill by House Majority Leader Amos Kimunya are slated for debate. Githaiga, start us off on this one.
Yes.
How important are these coalitions? If they were run by ideology, would we even need these coalitions that are being built, or people would just run on the ideology and win based on what they think? How important are these coalitions?
Yes, thank you very much, Trevor, and thank you for inviting me to this show. Glad to be here and to represent Vijana Narao as a chairman, which is a group of dynamic young people coming together so that we can spread the truth about who Raila Amolo Odinga is, especially in Mount Kenya, in those regions that our opponents have been able to brainwash our people and make them think that Raila is someone who's bad. He's a father, he's a gentleman, and he's a good worker. He's been the Prime Minister of this country. He's done quite much. But now, to answer your question, is coalitions are very important. Coalitions in this 21st century is what that sustains the world. For example, Kenya was actually recognized for the National Government Coalition, which was in 2007, when Raila Amolo Odinga and Kibaki came together and formed the National Coalition Government. What happens in other countries, there is a war. So 2 opponents always fight and a war breaks out in the country and disaster comes in. But coalitions are the kind of new way, the 21st century for Africa, so that our differences, our tribal differences, our political differences are merged together first. Then we build a house together, which is now what Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga are actually doing with the handshake today. And that's why we're supporting that team.
Yeah. Billion, some people argue that these coalitions are just a way of getting the votes. It's not necessarily about the people.
Thank you for having me. I think, first of all, we all know that, our politics is based on personalities. So we have the Uhuru, we have Raila, we have Ruto. So the politics is around, in Kenya is around personalities. But right now, with the kind of coalitions that we're trying to build, people are trying to, they know that you can't win alone. You have to have, partners that you share ideologies. So that's why we are seeing a lot more coalitions. And I'm seeing William Ruto trying to run away from this, but he eventually will come back. He'll need it even more than Raila Odinga, because he used to chest stamp that wote wakae kando, but right now you can see he's trying to reach out to other partners, but he can't do so when there's no proper structure and plan on how he is going to accommodate other players.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mwenga, what do you think? Are these coalitions that important?
Trevor, thank you very much, first of all. And we have to look at the history of this country to understand where we are and where we want to go as a country.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if you look at the history of Kenya, you'll realize that Let's go back to 1992, for instance, when we reintroduced multi-party democracy in Kenya, when we repealed Section 2A of the old constitution. That time, President Moi, there was only one party, KANU. KANU used to win not by a majority vote, but by a minority vote. By then we had, when we reintroduced multi-party democracy, we had around 13 fringe other parties that came up after the repeal of Section 2 of the Constitution. Now, after that, politicians thought that now we've been given the freedom to form our own political parties. What happened? Moi still beat them in the 1992 election. Why? He got a minority vote. But if you look at all the other political parties that had come up then, they got more than 65% of the vote combined. But Moi still beat them by a minority win. And because the Constitution said it was just a mere win, Moi became the president. Come to 1997, the same thing still happened. And Moi won with around 40% of the vote. But if you look at all the opposition parties by then, they had 60%. So the opposition won, but owing to the fact that Moi KANU is the one that had the majority vote with a minority win, Moi was declared president. That is why in 2002, Raila said and the opposition, let's come together. And we had NAC. I'll tell you, if they went alone in 2002, KANU would never have been defeated. But because they realized the only way was to come together, that's how NAC came to power and Kibaki won. Now, fast forward to 2010, the Constitution was very clear. The Constitution says that for you to be a president in this country, you need at least 50% plus one of the total votes cast. Again, you have to get at least, you have to win 25% of the vote in 24 of at least, or in 24 of the 47 counties. What idea informed that decision? The framers of our new constitution, the 2010 constitution, knew that for this country to have that unity, the Kenyans must feel that at least majority have won. And that's why anybody who's gunning for presidency must take cognizance of the fact that majority of Kenyans who are voting should feel or must have that feeling that we are in this together. So the idea that you can go it alone, I wonder who informs, and I wonder who informs our deputy president. I think he lives in a world of utopia, where he thinks that he can go it alone. I'll tell you, anybody gunning for president must come together. And that's why I really want to thank the Azimio la Umoja campaign, the Azimio la Umoja idea. We need to bring this country together. And I'll tell you, there is nobody who would be president if he goes it alone.
Okay. Bashir, what are your thoughts on this? Is this a coalition of ideas or a coalition of self-interests?
When you look at the current political happenings in our country, part of the issue that you'll actually figure out is that this specific conversation with respect to amendments that have to be done on our laws through the specific amendment that shall be discussed by Parliament next week is informed by what has happened before. Initially, we have had coalitions whereby the specific coalition partners at the end of their terms or at the end of the I think we have had time and again differences emerging with them sharing their predicaments. They were able to share certain troubles and tribulations that they've had as coalition partners. So I think the whole agenda is to change the politics of our country around political coalitions so as to breathe fresh life into it, to give confidence to the various partners. So I think, Trevor, the whole agenda is to ensure that this time around, going forward, the specific partners who shall be coming forward together to join a coalition shall be doing so in a way that that shall assure them that the interests are protected. And I think we have had the likes of CORD, whereby I think Kalonzo had actually shared his mistrust and problems as Wiper with respect to CORD coalition initially. So I think the whole agenda is to ensure that maybe Azimio la Umoja or be it in other coalition, that the specific partners shall have themselves in a safe environment that shall protect the interests. So I think for me, the other thing that I also underscore is that it tells us that as a country where there is political goodwill, many things can happen. You can imagine if a parliament has to be called for a special session just to ensure that certain political agendas are met, what it tells you about very many things, if you were to change a lot of things, the kind of special sessions we could have had to save our political environment. So I think this is just one of the conversations that shall breathe strong life into the coalition partners. They shall have a secure environment and they shall know at the end of the day when they are joining with other political parties, how the interests are well protected.
Okay, it's interesting what Bashir is bringing in, that we should have had more special sessions for other much more serious issues, but we'll get into that in just a bit when we talk about the scorecard. Githaiga, there's still on the front page of Daily Nation, One Kenya Alliance to go it alone. Leaders rebuff overtures by Ruto and Raila. As a young people, and you're the chairperson for Vijana na Rao, I understand that. But is there a reason why we should change the narrative that it is a two-horse race? You see, the One Kenya Alliance are saying they don't necessarily have to join anybody. They can run it alone.
Yes.
Do they stand a chance from where you stand? And is it that we are the ones who have changed this narrative into a personality sort of contest, like what Billion was saying?
All right. Thank you very much. And just pulling off from what my brother said just a minute ago, of course, you'd have to look at the history of where Oka came from. And who are those individual political individuals within Oka? These are people like Mudavadi, he was in NASA. So obviously, these are people who are friendly to Raila Amolo Odinga. When you look at Kalonzo Musyoka, he's from Wiper. He was also a friendly person with Raila Amolo Odinga. The other day you saw Gideon Moi, Raila Amolo Odinga attended his NDC. So this is like a part of Raila Amolo Odinga's team. We know very well there's a lot of propaganda and there's a lot of push and shoving, trying to show that Raila Odinga has not support. But Raila Odinga is in charge and is sitting there. We know there will come a time whereby this other team, Oka, will come and join the winning team, which is Raila Amolo Odinga's team, through the Azimio. I mean, they may have not come for that particular event because of their own individual reasons, but I know moving forward, this country, as His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta continues to tell us, is not going to be thrown to the dogs. We have to secure the future of this country, and likely, like you said, Edward Githaiga is the chairman of Vijana na Rao. This is the first time Edward Githaiga from Mount Kenya is voting for Raila Amolo Odinga. Because we've seen what has happened to His Excellency the President, who me personally campaigned for in 2017 to become the president, where his deputy has been using public resources, vehicles and everything, state machinery from 2018, opposing each and every policy that His Excellency the President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has put, including the handshake. You remember very well in Bomas of Kenya, His Excellency put it straight there in the whole country's face. Ruto was part of the planning and organizing of the handshake, and even those people who brought in the BBI. He was very ashamed. He stood up very fast and tried to tap the president so that the president could cool down. But us as youth, we're saying we've seen 4 years where and who can take us to the next level. And we know it is Raila Amolo Odinga, together like with the question that he asked, the coalition movement of Azimio La Umoja. That is where we're going to be. And that is a winning team.
Okay. Omwenga, is this a third force, One Kenya Alliance?
I'd like to say that, Trevor, if you look at the Oka principles, already Gideon Moi has joined the Azimio La Umoja Alliance. You saw him in Kasarani. He had a chance to speak. And that clearly tells you the direction. It's just like, you know, all the Oka principles were in NASA. And if they were planning to decamp to any other fold, they would have done it by now. But it's very clear. It's just like, this is just a short, not even divorce. It was a short separation. And in the fullness of time, I'll tell you, they'll go back to the original suitor, who was Raila Amolo Odinga. Now, look at Kalonzo. Kalonzo can never, ever join Ruto. Because you know Ruto's checkered political history. Kalonzo would never want to tinker his good name that he has acquired over a long period of time. He's been in politics for over 30 years. Would you think Kalonzo Musyoka would join UDA? Never. Number two, we have Musalia Mudavadi. Musalia Mudavadi has been crying for the economic development of this country. At one time, he was a minister for finance, and he knows where this country is. And he really, I believe, he's one of the people that really wants the best for this country. He can never any day vote with William Ruto. Any day. Moses Wetangula, probably hanging on the fence, but I'll tell you, he can't. It would be a hard sell for him. He knows what Raila has done for him over the years, and I'll tell you, it's just a matter of time. If they were planning to have their candidate, the Oka principals already would have had their own candidate.
But Gideon Moi next year.
Yes, up to next year, yes. But you see, let's look again at the Constitution. The Constitution says that if you want to enter into a coalition with anybody, you have at least 3 months to the general election. That's what the Constitution says. So they still have 4 or 5 months to, play around, increase their value within that bargaining system. So it's just a matter of, they're waiting. They have adopted a wait and see approach.
Yeah.
But ideally, we all know. I mean, it's quite obvious.
Yeah.
These are our people, Azimio la Umoja, the Oka principles. They're going to join with us because they want the best for this country.
Okay. Bashir, what are your thoughts on this? Is it a two-horse race the way it's being fashioned, or are there other options as well?
Trevor, I think as it were, the One Kenya Alliance had initially propounded a theory of maybe being an alternative to Kenyans. I think that was the initial theory that they tried to sell, but I think that is not the reality. You see, what happens is, time and again, they kept assuring Kenyans that they shall be able to maybe share with Kenyans who their flag bearer or their presidential contender shall be as a team. And I think what has emerged is that there's a lot of mistrust in that unit. They are not even able to trust each other. So I think, Trevor, that's on one part. But I think, Trevor, on the other part is, for me, I would not be surprised to see any of the Oka coalition, Oka members, those 4 members. I think, for me, I will not rule out the possibility of any of them working with the Deputy President William Ruto or even Raila Odinga, for that matter, or even going for the presidential ticket. But I think what we have seen is that over time, these are members that at one time they are associated with a specific presidential contender. At one point, they also, one of them is maybe associated, is said to be associated with so and so. I think, Trevor, to set the record straight, this is it. They have tried to tell Kenyans that indeed we are the alternative. I mean, we're the third or fourth force, whatever. But I think, for me, the way I look at it is, all the Oka members, the best they can be is to be the deputy or the running mates to the serious presidential contenders that we're having in this matter. I think when I look at all the 4, the best that they shall be in our subsequent general election is being a running mate to either Raila Odinga or even Honorable William Ruto. That's the best they can be.
Okay. Billion, is this part of what you are saying? Because there are many other presidential candidates as well. Mukisa Kitui is there's Alfred Mutua, there are quite a number who are still running. Is this really a two-horse race, the way it is being?
I think I'll still say it's a two-horse race. And unfortunately, the Oka principles, with all due respect, they were doing this to add value to, who they are, their personalities. Our politics is around personalities. But now things are changing. We have governors that have been connecting more to the grassroots that are coming up. They're not running again. So the more they waste time trying to add value, the more there are more players that are coming in. And Raila Odinga or William Ruto, they don't need every vote from Mukambani. They just need a certain percentage, and if they can get them from the governors, then they'll say, okay, you've been playing hard to get for long. Yeah, so that is what the other Oka principles have been doing. But you can see very well that my former boss Gideon Moi, he's been seeing what is happening, and I'm sure he's been the one who has been trying to pull them towards the Azimio la Umoja. So for us to really, if we really care about this country, I think it's time to, forget about the egos, because, it could be around the egos. Forget about our egos and say, enough is enough. Let's be together. Let's move forward together. And maybe now when we have the political parties amendment bill ready, they could now pull together, because all of us were waiting for the BBI. So BBI would have created space for everyone. As you can see, there are only 2 slots, 2 serious slots. Yeah. And if you look at the principles now, and with all the players, there are more than 5. So everybody's wondering what number will I play in that team. Okay. So maybe that's why it's taking too long for them.
Now there's the biggest question of running mates, but I'll ask all of you here to suggest who you think running mates should be, not names per se, but where they should come from, because there's also that conversation that certain running mates should come from either Mount Kenya, because they're the majority. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But Hezena Lemelatian is now joining us, the aspiring women rep for Samburu Global Peace Ambassador and the Queen of the North. Your Majesty, thank you for making time. Before you came in, we were talking about the headlines. Ruto MPs plot showdown on Uhuru Raila Azimio plans. Raila rides storm to craft new coalition. It's all about the coalitions we were talking about. How important are these coalitions? That was the question we were answering earlier on. And is it a coalition of ideology or a coalition of selfish interests to push certain leaders into the political limelight?
I think it's both, because there are some coalitions that you're seeing, these people have not been doing so much within their own political parties. And you see, and they're still arguing, what am I getting as a principle of a certain political party or, from joining a certain coalition? And that's why we are seeing this push and pull, like refusing to come to the Azimio at Kasarani. It's obviously they were pursuing their own personal interests. But of course, you know, politicians will always be politicians. They are going to, some of them are going to act like they are really thinking about the citizens. But definitely there is, I think the personal interest plays a very major role.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of you are running for political office and you're young people. How do we ensure that the people now start to see the importance of the ideologies and the agenda of the people rather than the personalities or even the parties they're running with? How do we change the mindset of the young people to interrogate the leaders so that it's not about personalities like Billian was saying?
I think we have to focus especially on their agenda and manifestos, because some of these things are very clearly spelled out. For us youths, we want our interests taken care of. We don't want to continue being in the menu. We don't want to be fed on. And when you look at what manifestos these principles are giving us, I think there are only two that are coming out clearly. That means it's a two-horse race. And when you look at the two, we are looking at who is teaching us how to fish, and who is giving us fish, maybe rotten fish. Yeah.
This is the main thing that everybody is wondering. And you're running for women rep in Samburu, right?
Yes.
What pushed you to do this?
I am actually motivated by the suffering of the Samburu people, and I also want, at the back of my mind, I also want to inspire more youth to take active participation in politics, because I think it's our time right now to lead. We have the energy, we have the ideas to transform our country, and we have the solutions to the problems that are facing us, because we are at the receiving end of all the past mistakes of the governments that came before. We are suffering, for instance, from our economic situation. From the World Bank report, you heard that unemployment and poverty are part of the top 4 problems that are facing the youth globally. And look at our country, the youth there's a huge population that's unemployed, and people end up in you know, the youths are actually accepting handouts because of that. So why don't we come in as youth and participate in active politics, seek these elective posts, and show our people that, you know, we are also able to lead. And that means you can also elect the youth who do not have the resources maybe to vie for this and to, you know, to give the handouts. This will inspire them.
Okay.
Yes.
Githaiga, the reason why this is an important question for me is that young people of a long period of time have been used in the wrong way to either gain political mileage or even sometimes settle political scores. You've been in the National Youth Council for some time as a youth leader. How do we change this narrative to ensure that young people now look at a scorecard or even the agenda that the person is presenting rather than personalities or even political parties?
Thank you very much for that question. Actually, I would like to start off by the side of National Youth Council. And I want to take back the members of the National Youth Council who were with us in when Jubilee came in. And it's like history is repeating itself. We had one William Samoei Ruto and Anne Waiguru, while we had the first National Youth Council convention at Kasarani. And they made so many big promises to the youth that they'll give us space, and that never happened. What happened after that was the NYS scandal. Now we are seeing these two figures, especially from my side and National Youth Council side answering that. We are seeing these two figures coming again together. This is just a warning sign to the young people of this country that indeed they need to look soberly to know which leader they want to elect in 2022. because the horse races that you're saying, 2 horse races, actually one is a crippled horse race, and I have no offense to anybody. But I'm saying that is a horse that has an injury, full of corruption, full of deception, and things that young people in this country cannot tolerate anymore. Like for me, myself, being a National Youth Council leader, having retired in National Youth Council, and having seen that all those promises that William Ruto gave us in that convention were never implemented. None of them came to be. Then this is why we've decided to work with one Raila Amolo Odinga, because we believe and we've seen his journey to where he's gotten to today. And the promises that he's making, like my sister Hezena has mentioned, is there one giving you a how to fish, or is there one who's giving you a rotten fish? So we have to choose between the two. And those 2 horse races, just to conclude, the distinction is clear. Raila Amolo Odinga has been the longest serving political prisoner, while William Ruto in 1992 with Y2K, he represented the regime that was offensive to the people of Kenya, the people who are looking for multi-party state in Kenya. And he was opposed to that. And clearly it shows, even going back to the issue of coalitions, he's not a man who wants to cooperate and bring national unity in this country. He's an individual who wants to go it alone, who wants to return us back to the days of KANU dark ages, when the youth wingers were even more powerful than the police. We do not want to have a malicious state after 2022. And running by the words that Uhuru Kenyatta told us the other day in Kirinyaga, that he doesn't want, especially us young people in Mount Kenya, who seem to have been, for 4 years, William Ruto has been camping there. You can even wonder whether he's from there, because what is the interest that he has with Mount Kenya? To ensure that he can brainwash the young people of Mount Kenya to even hate the president. When you look at the headline today, Ruto MP showdown on Uhuru, how can you be the deputy president and yet still oppose the person who has given you the job as a principal assistant? So we are hoping that the NDC of Jubilee will make that firm decision to make these changes so that these plans of Azimio can go.
Okay. Omwenga, how do we ensure the young people stick to merit and scorecards and not personalities?
Thank you, Trevor. You need to understand why maybe sometimes the young people don't take a stance at national politics. There is a perception in this country that for you to vie for any political seat, you need to have a lot of money. You need to have there was a joke that was going around on social media that you start a small business, then when you get some money, you feel like you're doing very well, then Satan comes to you and tells you, look for an MCA seat. I don't know whether you saw that joke. It was going around that shetani anakuja nakwambia ukipata pesa kidogo tafuta MCA. And that's when there's that instinct that tells you tafuta MCA, then you know that the devil is really on your neck. So that tells you that there's a perception that we need to change in this country, that you only need, you need to have a lot of money for you to get into politics. That's true to some extent, and that was a culture, or that's something that has been exploited by a certain clique of politicians to take advantage of the vulnerable. And you see, majority of Kenyans are vulnerable. Many millions of Kenyans live below $1.
Yeah.
In this country. $1 is now 100 bob. I'll tell you, they say over 15 million, 20 million Kenyans live below $1, 100 shillings. So, in my tribe, let me tell you, in my tribe, they call it Owasera, as you need to give something for you to, if you're looking for any political position. And that's why now people say it, let them give, wewe kula, lakini piga kura kwa huyu jamaa mwingine. So that is something that has really made the young people shy away from politics. Yeah. And we need to change that.
Okay.
It doesn't mean, and look at the civilized, more civilized democracies. Let me give you a classical example. We've been seeing people having fundraisers, and in fact, fundraising is in the constitution, that if you're going for a political party, you need to do a fundraiser for people to support you. But when you ask for a fundraiser in this country, people start asking you, unataka tukupe pesa munomba kura? So you see, it's a convoluted affair. Yeah. And that's why as young people, we need to change the narrative. Nobody's going to do it for me. It is us to come together and say, we can't change this country.
Yeah.
I looked at the IEBC projections. There are figures being bandied around that for you to be a member of parliament, You need 90 million. I don't have 90 million, but I'll tell you I'm the next member of parliament for West Mugirango, but I don't have 90 million. That's a vibe that is not there. For you to be president, so you need what? 10 billion, 20 billion? No way. We need to change the narrative. The young people constitute we have over 30 million youth in this country.
Yeah.
Where are we? We need to rise to the occasion. We need to take over the leadership of this country.
Yeah.
We need to change that narrative. I am praying for a day when anybody from anywhere can come and say, I want to vie for a political seat in this country, not because I have the money, but because I have ideals, but because I stand for something, and because I want to do something for my people.
Okay.
So that idea that the only reason that most young people are not rising up to fill these political positions, it's because those that have gone before us.
Yeah.
Let me give you a classical example. Look at our deputy president. Where do you get the money from day one to be dishing out 2 million, 3 million, 5 million every day in every place that you go to? What kind of politics is that? If I want to be a president today, I will be thinking, do I have 5 million under my bed? Which business gives you such kinds of money to dish out every day? And a serious person who's worked out for their money will tell you, you don't just dish out your money. Are we together? So we need to change the narrative where it's only those who feel like they're well-oiled. And for you to do that, just dish out money left, right, and center, it means you really have stolen money. You can't just, Trevor, let me ask you, you've worked hard, you earn a salary, you take down a salary, or you draw down a salary from Citizen. Would you just be dishing out money like that if you want to run a political seat? You wouldn't. So we need to change that narrative. We need to say, Apana, we need the youth to rise up to the occasion and realize that we have a dividend which we must exploit.
Okay.
And the youth dividend is something we must look up to. I am going down and I'm talking to my people and I'm telling them it is not just about the money.
Yeah.
If you have ideals, if you have something to stand for, it is only the youth who can go to parliament and fight for our rights. Yeah. But if you leave guys who've just been there over the time, then we'll keep crying. Oh, our leaders, don't cry.
Okay.
Take position and take the risk.
Yeah. Bashir, let me bring in on this. Is that where the solutions begin? When the young people start saying no to handouts, is that the point where we will now start interrogating the agendas that the leaders actually have? Or do we have a bigger problem as young people?
Trevor, I think, you see, our laws give us an opportunity to audit our leaders every 5 years at the ballot. You see, the people of our republic, we ordinarily have an opportunity of voting those who we want. That is the opportunity the law gives us every 5 years. We are supposed to audit these leaders at the general election, at the ballot. But Trevor, it is quite unfortunate that there are two things I first wish to discern this morning. That whenever you want to see who is the best leader who shall protect your interest as the youth, there are two ways. Number one, you look at the agenda or the manifesto that shall be shared with you just prior to the general election. That happens, the Honorable Raila Odinga shall at some point share with us his agenda in the event he'll be running Ruto the same way Mudavadi or Mutua, any other person who shall be vying for the presidency, shall give us his or her own manifesto. Fantastic. On the other part, Trevor, the other question that we are supposed to ask is that, look, these are people who may not be directly in the government, but they can be indirectly associated with the government of the day. Some of the hard questions as the youth we are supposed to pose it to these leaders are, look, you have had an opportunity of maybe working with the with the President of the Republic, maybe as an advisor or as an influential person, or even as the deputy. The question shall be, what have you done during when you were serving in that specific capacity? We are at a point whereby the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is in a way associated with the government of the day. Ruto is absolutely our deputy president. Kalonzo is associated with the government of the day. He's even, I think, a special envoy to Sudan. Mudavadi in the same way. I think some are being governors as we speak. So I think, Trevor, we shall have an opportunity of putting across tough questions to them as to what they have done when they have had an opportunity to serve us in various capacities. But I have a problem with the youth of our day, with the youth of this time and age. You see, the problem we have in is even, I think from what I can hear even from my own colleagues over there, even in as much as the youth, we encourage being proactive in our politics or having a conversation about what should happen. Right now we are having conversations about Warembo, I think Warembo na Gideon something, Vijana na Rao, Vijana na Ruto. I think these are the conversations that are already misplaced. The youth are already aligning themselves to certain political supremos, even before they have seen their manifestos and agendas. I wonder if you find someone now branding himself as Vijana Narao or Vijana Naruto, what have you seen? What are the plans? What are the specific objectives that he has shared with you at the moment? There is no manifesto for, I think, for Raila Odinga at the moment, and the same is for Ruto. I don't know how they have measured that specific thing for them to even end up associating themselves with a specific supremo. Bottom line, for me, I think it is the youth that are the problems of this current situation. The literacy rate is good. The youth can read a lot. They understand. They can pose good questions, but you will find them just end up associating themselves to a specific political leader just for the sake, without even questioning what are his agendas for our country. I think the problem with the youth is, the problems that are bedeviling the youth of our day, I think the root cause are the very youth that we have in our country. We need to pose it the right questions before we associate ourselves with certain political leaders.
All right. Billion, how do we sort this out as young people? Because, if there's a complete breakaway, the young people decide that this is the person we're putting in power, even if it is a person with allegedly no name per se, the person will win. Do we exist as a voting bloc, or are we distracted by the little things like handouts here and there?
First of all, Trevor, I know I'm a youth, but I don't subscribe to the narrative that, young people need to be in positions. I think we have been selling that narrative until it's becoming like it's a battle between the young and the old. For me, I think we need to elect people with substance, because at the end of the day we need to be served and we need to serve our people. So selling the youth narrative, I don't think will go a long way. Knowing the politics of this country, where apart from being young, being a young person, there's always a say that politics is local. So you first of all have to subscribe to where your community is as you continue going. So we don't exist as a voting bloc, because if you look at what is happening on social media right now, you're seeing, people are aligning, even young people are aligning according to, where their political godfather is, and it's very risky for our country. However, I know that there's a bit of change, and we're going to see a lot more surprises in the next election. That young people were trying to run away from, the tribal collections, the tribal alignment, to stand on our own, and that will give more young people an opportunity to be in position, political positions. Yeah. So I would say we still have a long way to go. We still have the political godfathers that we still believe that it's them that holds our dreams. Yeah. But maybe in the next 5, 10, 20 years, yeah, we'll start subscribing to the narrative of who stands for us. Okay.
Yeah. Now, Latian, are we able to change that? Because even right now, even the response on Twitter, there's a lot of emotions because of the people you people keep mentioning here in the studio. There's a lot of emotions out there. At what point will the young people now start galvanizing and to look at a leader for the scorecard and what their merit is and what their agenda is, rather than who they are? And what are the people telling you in the ground? So when you go to Samburu, and I know it's a very interesting place you've chosen to run for, what do they tell you? What is their reception and what is their concern when it comes to the political situation?
Okay, I tend to disagree with my brother here, Billion, because we have been in politics together for quite a while, and I think we do not need to give the old people space to stereotype that we are still young, we still growing, and because those are impediments they are imposing on us. And the young people can only get into those elective position and any other position in this country if we fight for it, because nothing comes on a silver platter, like I always say, and we must fight for these spaces. But I believe there is a change of heart among the Kenyan youth. They have suffered enough. Most of them do not actually want handout. The few that want handout and want to be maintained with bundles actually end up very poor. And the ones that are, strategically align themselves with certain candidates, like my campaign team, these are not people you can corrupt. These are not people that I know will be bought tomorrow by my opponents. These are very sober youth. And I know there are some youths who are being given bundles to tarnish the young people who are vying like me. I know my opponents are forever sending, go do this to this and this. I know because we were there at one point. We grew up there. You know, when we were younger, before we became wise, they used to send us, oh, go and attack so-and-so, go and say this and this. So we know exactly what these people are doing, and we know how these people who are sending them do this. So these are basically youths who are being used against their fellow youths, and I believe that there is a huge population out there of youths who respect themselves and do not want handouts, and they are actually fighting for a better society, and they are incorruptible. And I think that is where the back of corruption will stop in this country, because you know it has to start from our hearts, it has to start from our minds. We have to actualize it in our minds and say that, you know, we are done with this and we do not want to be corrupted anymore, not even with 50. I mean, it's a shame to be given 50 shillings to insult somebody, so we just ignore them because we are fighting for a bigger cause. Yes.
Trevor,
yeah,
I want to just add something.
Yeah.
I like what Ezana said. Because look at 2013. I think if there's one hero I really like in this country, is Naisula Lesuda. She was only 29 when she gunned for senator in 2013. At age 29, I mean, when you hear the positions of senator, there's a rap that it belongs to a particular group of individuals. Why is it that when you are employed, by the time you are age 55, you start thinking of retirement? Or by the time you are age 50, you are thinking of retirement. But in politics, the roles are reversed. So I want to say that even if you look across the country, in 2019 we had Sarah Marin elected as the Prime Minister at only the age of 30. So that idea that the leadership role in this country is for the old, I think honestly, has started changing. We are seeing young people taking political roles in this country. Sakaja did it very well. I mean, he for the longest time, he has been a sober person politically. Even amid all this confusion, sometimes he's been the voice of reason, even in the Senate. So I don't like the idea that we should just leave the political space to a particular clique of individuals.
Yeah.
The reason why we have things like Vijana na Rao is because we also have to look up to people that have gone before us. For us to know where we are going, we have to identify with a mentor.
Yeah.
Not somebody who's just dishing out, like Yazena said, rotten fish. That's why there are things like Vijana na Rao. We have to look at them for us to know the direction to take.
Yeah.
We have to look at their course in history, what they did for this country. That's why we have things like Vijana na Rao, organizations like Vijana na Rao. But ideally, we are seeing the young people, the youth, taking over and coming out and saying, we must be counted.
Okay.
So I do not agree with my brother that it's not just about Norway. Across the world, I'll tell you, in every continent, young people are taking over. In Nigeria, the Commissioner of the Budget is a young person. He was given that role at age 29.
Okay.
Once again, Naisula Lesuda, she was a journalist. She went for senator. We have places like in, there's a county in Rift Valley where the speaker, Joshua Kipto, was only 29 when he was elected speaker. Okay. So young people are taking over.
Githaiga, what do you say to the people who say that some young people are sycophants? And it's not just you. I mean, there's Vijana na Rao, Vijana na WSR, Warembo na WSR, Warembo na Rao. It's all over. Oka also has their own wing. What do you say to the people who say that the young guys like yourselves are turning into sycophants rather than the change that they yearn to see?
Okay, I'll tell them first, don't be quick to judge. Do your research. Find out who is behind the mic and who is talking. We are people who've been in this, like you mentioned earlier, in the youth sector. A lot of the freedoms and the opportunities like Youth Fund and others that are existing, Uwezo Fund, we've been part and parcel of advocating for youth inclusion, both politically, socially, and economically.
Yeah.
So I would tell them to first do their research. Let's not be quick to judge people because they belong to an outfit or another. This is part of our makeup. You have to belong somewhere. You have to come from a family. These are groupings. The Constitution provides that you have right to association, right to political dispensation, or right to political consciousness. And this is what we're practicing. So anybody who is not practicing his own constitutional right is probably the problem in this country. The reason why we've started Vijana na Rao is because we've seen Raila Amolo Odinga has good agendas, like what he launched recently with Azimio la Umoja. It's clearly stated. My sister Hezena was there in the middle of all of it. Have you seen our opponents really giving young people the space to come and negotiate and be partners? Or we are being packaged like a packet of potatoes and dropped onto a wheelbarrow to be dropped in the market. We are not for sale. We are people who are intelligent, and we know. And we can clearly see Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the president of the country, is overworking. Matiang'i and all those other ministers are overworking. But the deputy president, since 2018, and I repeat, has been going around the country campaigning, brainwashing our young people about a hustler narrative. Yet the government of Jubilee has, like we were saying about the scorecard, has got policies and programs that are supposed to aid those people who are at the bottom of the pyramid. Right? And this has been going on. So where is he abdicating from that reality and promising people something that is not true and will not happen? And that is why we are camping in Mount Kenya, we are camping in Maa counties, we are camping in Rift Valley to ensure that those agendas that Raila Amolo Odinga launched in the Azimio la Umoja, we will congregate, we will come together, we will innovate and use technology to reach the young people and put the pictures there clearly. Choose who you want. Do you want a leader, or you want a person who is selfish? Okay. Do you want a person who has got an economic true agenda? Because you cannot just come up with a big story, because everybody is going through an economic hardship, not just in Kenya, but also in Africa, and say it's called bottom-up approach. That is fallacy. He is in a government. He is supposed to be telling the government officers to give more loans to the youth. Right now, they are plotting to shoot down what Azimio la Umoja has come up with to bring unity. Instead of saying the budget next year is supposed to have 10 billion going to the youth. So these lies should end, and young people should wake up and understand that the future lies in their hand. Okay. That vote that they have commands the future that they secure under Raila Amolo Odinga.
I have to take a quick break now on Daybreak. When we come back, we're talking about the Jubilee scorecard really briefly and what they've done well, what they have not done well from the youth perspective, and they're going to give out the names of the people who are there. It's just now a scorecard. It's like an evaluation of what they've done well, where they've failed, right? See you in just a bit. Keep your views coming. I see a lot of them at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. I always say that political ideas and conversations will happen. It doesn't make us enemies, people. Calm down. All this temperature that I see on Twitter is not very unnecessary. At the end of the day, all those political leaders, and you've seen this, they've been together before. They're friends. Ensure you take care of your neighbors. See you in just a bit.